Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Happy anniversary? No, that makes no sense. Normally, well, this is how I feel personally. I tie the word anniversary with something positive. Wedding day, relationship, marriage, although some would argue that marriage is not always a positive thing, considering, well, let's see, the divorce rate is at an all-time high. But you get my point. The word anniversary to me is a positive thing. Well, that's not the case today because, well, if we go back in time 1 year, I witnessed Kawhi Leonard hitting a gut-wrenching shot against the Sixers in Game 7 to put the Sixers home, to make them pack up their stuff and go back home, where they would never play another basketball game again in that postseason. And it hurt. It definitely hurt at the time. I remember where I was. I was at my buddy's house. We were all together, screaming, going crazy. I dropped to my knees instantly. As soon as I saw that shot hit off the rim twice, I just fell to my knees. I couldn't believe it. I think I even shed a couple tears. I was so hurt. I was pissed, hurt, upset, devastated, destroyed, you name it. I was it. Now we reflect. Sadly, because there's nothing else on television, we have the time to reflect on that team. How much did that change? Look at Jimmy Butler. Look at Al Horford. Did that change the future of the Sixers organization? That one shot. That one game. Did it make the Sixers organization go down the wrong path? Could things have been different? How about Greg Monroe? He played, 2 minutes of basketball? If that. If it was even 2 full minutes. He was -9? That's almost impossible. As soon as Joel Embiid left the floor, there goes the Raptors. 75-10 run. It was absurd. And listen to these stats real quick. And this is courtesy of Kevin Kincaid of Crossing Broad. In Game 7, they started out 0 for 9 from the field. They scored 40 points at halftime. They shot 24 fewer field goals than the Raptors. They got abused on the glass and had 15 turnovers. How did this game go to the last shot? That's literally ridiculous to think that they were even involved to that degree after reading those stats. Does that tell you the Sixers were actually insanely talented and somehow just fell short? Or is that a knock on the Raptors to even allow the Sixers to be engaged in a tilt like that on their home floor when having such crap statistics? It's pretty miraculous. It really is. Now, before we get more into this, we need to hear a couple words from my sponsors. This episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. They set the standard for clean energy. Whether you are looking to add solar to your home or your company, Orbit Energy and Power works directly with you to ensure that you are getting the best deal. That's not all. Orbit can provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So visit them online at orbitenergy.us or give them a call at 800-836-3987. And do not forget about Ravens Brew Coffee. You know me. I'm addicted to coffee. I drink 3 billion cups a day, and I've tried so many different coffees out there. The moment Ravens Brew Coffee touched my lips, I knew instantly. I had the jitters. I had that caffeine rush. Boom. It hit me instantly, and I loved it. Now, if you are someone who doesn't need that much power in their caffeine, that's the beauty of Ravens Brew. They have so much variety. They have so much coffee that has different caffeine content levels, depending on what time of the day it is or depending on your personality when it comes to coffee. So make sure you check out the links in the description. There's a few things that people like to nitpick when it comes to that shot against the Raptors, and one of them is the travel. Listen, it's the NBA, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but there would never, in a million years, be a travel called on that last play. And guess what? I wouldn't even want it to be called. I would never want someone in Game 7 of an NBA playoff game to call a travel on that play. That's just reality. That's what this league is now. That is allowed. It's not really a technicality. If the NBA refs called a travel on every single play due to technicality, it would be ridiculous. It would be at an all-time high, and it would be annoying. It's very similar to when a wide receiver and a cornerback are going one-on-one with each other and there's a ton of hand play and you watch it in super slow-mo. You will find a way to say, well, that's a flag. Oh, we can't do that. That totally affected the play. Right? I mean, you will find that on every single play. Well, with this, you'll find that travel on every single play if you really wanted to nitpick things. Not every play, but a significant amount of plays. You will find a travel somewhere if you watched it to an insane degree. I don't see a reason to complain. Imagine if the Sixers had that on the other side. They got to inbound the ball. They win the shot. But hold on. I think there might have been a travel. Come on. That's nitpicking. It's nitpicking. I don't see a reason to destroy the travel. It was fine. Kawhi Leonard made a crazy, lucky shot. And then the conversation about how it was defended, right? Ben Simmons pushing him to that side of the floor, and then Joel Embiid goes towards him. I saw nothing wrong with the way the Sixers defended that shot. Great offense beats great defense. And guess what? With a little bit of help and with a little bit of the basketball gods, on top of that good offense, Kawhi Leonard was able to execute the shot. I don't see a reason to complain about the defense. I thought they played him just fine. What happened was, basketball gods, a couple bounces on the rim, and it went in. It's nobody's fault in that play. It's just the way that it played out. It hurt. It was emotional at the time, but so be it. And I feel I'm in the minority because right now when I see those clips, or even today when I went back and even watched the extended highlights a bunch of times, really, because I really wanted to embrace it. It was the anniversary. And I watched it a couple times because I didn't get that emotional watching it. I could easily do it. And I didn't know it would be that way. I figured I would never want to see that clip again. And to be fair, I'm not pounding on the glass, I want to watch this. No, of course not. But I never assumed that I could watch that clip again and be all right. Well, here I am 1 year later, and it's on my iPad or iPhone. I watched that on my iPhone. It didn't really hit me to that level. I could watch it again 1,000,000 times. I'm sure that there's a lot of Sixers fans out there where you would have to maybe clothespin their eyes wide open to force them to have to see it. Isn't that weird, though? Why is that? Why am I so comfortable watching a moment where if you go back in time to when it happened, I dropped instantly to my knees and started to drop tears? I can do that with the Super Bowl any day of the week, which was the same reaction. Drop to my knees in tears. Totally different side, though, right? Complete opposite. I could watch that easily. You don't have to tease me with a good time. I'll bring the guac. I'll bring the chips. I'll bring the cold ones. I'm not feeling the same way in terms of, hey, let's go watch Game 7 against the Raptors, but it's just, I don't know. Nobody wanted to talk about it today. Everyone was, I can't believe it. Oh, it was so painful. Travel, Ben and Joel, or you name it. Jimmy Butler, the turnovers. Here's my favorite, Brett Brown. I live with the motto of embrace the beauty of sports. Iconic moment, iconic photo. It's going to be a historic moment in the sport of basketball. You will see Kawhi Leonard posing like that. You will see the guys looking up at the rim. It's history. Now, I'm not saying I'm rooting for that. Clearly, I want the Sixers to win the basketball game. It's weird how open I am, though, to seeing the play again, to reliving that moment. I would think I would be so devastated that it would be washed out of my life forever, which is interesting. How about this, though? When you look at stats from this Game 7, and the series was 1-0 Toronto, 1-1 the Sixers tied it up by winning a road game in Toronto in Game 2. Then Game 3 happened in Philly, and that's where we all expected it to change, right? Joel Embiid with the crazy airplane. He had the windmill dunk. The Wells Fargo Center was absolutely electric, but the Raptors tied it in Game 4. Going to Game 5, Toronto wins. Back home for Game 6. the Sixers are able to tie it up, and then we know Game 7, of course, the rest is history. But this Game 7, Kawhi Leonard scored 41 points, right? That's absurd. He took 39 shots. He took 39 shots. Sixers made him work. See, there's a lot of Brett Brown haters that says he's the worst coach ever and yada, yada, yada. We've been hearing it before. I thought he coached his ass off in this series. I really mean that. Because the same people who hate Brett Brown probably respect Nick Nurse and say that he's a good coach. Look, he won a championship. Brett Brown went 7 games toe-to-toe with him, and it took a miracle shot to do it. Now, were there some bad possessions late in the game? Sure. I think the Sixers players, though, had a role in that as well. Sure, I don't think Brett Brown had his best moments ever in Game 7 when needed. But I don't think he was the only problem during that time either. I thought in a series, when I look at that series, 7 games, I looked at Brett Brown and I thought, you battled your ass off. You coached a hell of a series. For what it's worth, and for how much power an NBA head coach has, you coached one hell of a series. It's a players' league. There's been a quote thrown around, I think it was from Zach Lowe's podcast, where Kawhi was laughing at Nick Nurse for bringing up a past experience in the D-League when Nick Nurse was coaching. Kawhi laughed. You think I'm listening to you? They don't respect head coaches. We just watched, episode 7 and 8 of The Last Dance, where Gary Payton looked at his head coach and pretty much said, screw you, I'm guarding Michael Jordan. I don't give a hell what you say. Yeah, that's because it's a players' league and they run the asylum. It's just what it is, right? That's how this works. But I digress. That conversation is for another day. I'm sure it is for another day. The we would have loved, the we would have won crowd is something I can't get behind either. Oh, we would have won the championship. Why? We still would have had to play the Bucks. Would the Warriors be easier that season due to Kevin Durant? Due to Klay Thompson? Absolutely. It would have been an easier matchup compared to if they were healthy. But would Kevin Durant tear his ACL? A lot of things change, right? I mean, not everything would have stayed the same if the Sixers win. It just changes the entire landscape and the rest of how all of the series plays out. Not everything happens the same once you change something else. So who knows if KD would have torn his Achilles? Because guess what? He wouldn't have been running down the floor in the same spot because that game would have been different. And the game before that would have been different. And everything would have been different. Who knows if they would have even gotten past the Bucks? I'm not saying it was impossible to win. I liked their team. But I'm not saying they would have won. And I won't rely on that either. Oh, they would have won. There was so much to be played. 2 full 7-game series. I'm sorry. I can't easily just write in the Sixers and say, well, they would have won. Because look at the Warriors banged up. And look at the Bucks. They blew it against the Raptors. Okay. Who knows if they would have blew it against the Sixers? Nobody knows. But I can't automatically say, well, that was the Sixers championship waiting for them. I will absolutely get more into this. Tomorrow, me and D-Ray are recording our Processed podcast, and that will be dropped Thursday morning. But I know that we will date back to this moment in history because it is a big moment in Sixers history, and it was a painful one at the time. And we're going to discuss some things. We're going to talk about how he feels, how I feel still, and dive way more into it. So make sure you keep your eye out for episode 11 of Process. D-Ray and I are really enjoying the Sixers convo and the basketball talk in general. We can't wait until there's real basketball to talk about so we can dissect literal plays, actual plays that go down on the floor instead of kind of manufacturing conversation. That's all of Sports Talk Radio, though, right now, of course, because, well, there's no sports. What I want to get into just a tad before we take some phone calls is how this would have changed the franchise if the Sixers won that game. Do they keep Jimmy Butler? is that big? Does J.J. Redick stay? Is there a way to keep J.J. Redick? Did they have to go out and get an Al Horford, right? None of this would have made sense mathematically from a salary standpoint, so something would have had to give, of course. But if they did go to the Eastern Conference Finals, do you have the question about Jimmy Butler? Now, with hindsight, we understand that Jimmy and Brett Brown did not see eye to eye. But if you get to the Eastern Conference Finals and Jimmy Butler is a dog who cares about winning, and that's very important to him, and he's never been that far into the postseason in his career, is he willing to sacrifice maybe not seeing eye to eye with the head coach, knowing that that team made it to the Eastern Conference Finals? Or hell, if they did beat the Bucks and they were in the finals, but they lost to the Warriors because KD and the Achilles injury never happened, or whatever the case may be, does he look at Philadelphia and think, okay, I'm not the happiest in the world, but this puts me in a place where I can succeed? Does that change everything? Are we no longer worried about an aging Al Horford who can't really stretch the floor? Although, then you look into how else you can fill that void of when Joel Embiid goes to the bench. 2 minutes of play logged in, -9. And that just is 2 minutes because it rounds up on this box score. It could have been 1:30 or 1:35 or whatever the case may be. I don't know the actual literal time stamp. It rounds the number up to the closest minute. So it says 2 minutes -9. It was insane. Think about this. In a playoff game, Greg Monroe was coming off the bench to play for Joel Embiid. And there was a battle between him, Amir Johnson, and Boban. That was the battle for the big men. Now, looking at how some of the Sixers guys played, Embiid, 21 points, 6 of 18 from the field, though, so not his strongest shooting game. Ben only had 5 shots in 42 minutes. I remember that being a big-time conversation, that he only had 5 shots in Game 7. Let's not even say shots. Field goal attempts. That's insanity. It really is. In playoff ball, he turns into a different type of player. He definitely does. The box score is cringeworthy. 92-90. Oof. All right. I don't know if I want to look at the box score much longer. So with that being said, let's listen to you, and let's listen to the phone calls. But before we do, real quick, do not forget about my sponsor, Orbit Energy and Power, and they set the standard for clean energy. So if you're looking for solar, backup energy services, battery storage, water purification systems, check out Orbit Energy and Power. The link is in the description. Let's kick it to our first caller.
Hey, Broads. My thoughts on the Kawhi shot was pretty amazing shot, lucky shot in my eye. I actually thought there might have been a travel at the beginning of that play. But, I mean, it happened. I think it should have made this team stronger. I don't know if it did that. Embiid seemed to me that he got weaker after this, not stronger. Maybe this will refuel him after he sees it again. And I think it just changed the whole, just heartbreak. It was heartbreak. I couldn't even watch it. I was upstairs, heard my dad screaming, had to run downstairs. Actually mortified to watch it over again. Yeah, and one of the most amazing shots I've ever seen in my life. And how it went in was just heartbreaking.
It definitely was. Now, there's a couple things I want to hit on. The first, and I was even taking notes during your call, so I was like, oh, I want to hit on that. Embiid. I remember watching him cry. I remember seeing him hug his girlfriend at the time in the tunnel, and we all thought after there was some breathing time that maybe this was a good thing. You got to go through pain and heartbreak to take the next step. Even Michael Jordan has been talking about that in The Last Dance. Early on in his career, he had to get through the Pistons. He had to battle the bad boys. He had to continue to lose until he realized what he needed to do to succeed. We all thought that would be a great thing for Joel Embiid, and it never really happened. And this year, he did look the other way. He gets caught out by Shaq and Barkley, and he has a dominating performance. And then what happens? It goes back to what he was providing for us before that. It never really clicked with him. And now there's also some reports about, I was going to say Larry Boa, but that's not who it was. And why am I drawing a blank? This is honestly embarrassing. Larry Brown. Phew, I didn't even get it up and it popped into my head. Good thing, Broach. Larry Brown was talking about how he thinks Joel Embiid has it in him to be that type of player. I don't know. I don't know if I see that. Maybe it's because he's very raw to the game, very new to the game. I don't know. I don't see that in him, though. Second thing, not being able to watch. You physically actually could not watch. Now, I get that. Even if you did the cover the face thing and you looked between your fingers, I can live with that. But to not actually watch, I don't know. I think you got to sack through it and make sure that your eyes somehow see what happens in live time. You can't go with the face in the pillow or hiding in the closet or going upstairs. You got to watch what's going on.
What's up, bro? It's Brendan, Florida State University student here. So, I would like to say I'm over this shot, but to be honest with you, I'm not. And I just saw this clip about an hour ago where right when he grabbed the ball off the inbound, he clearly traveled, and I didn't even see that at first. So that just pissed me off even more. And, I'm getting a bunch of Snapchat memories from my friends that just have my reaction in it. I remember exactly where I was. I was in my fraternity house with all my brothers watching the finals, watching the game. And, he sinks the lucky bounce shot, and I throw my hat against the wall and run out of the room. So, yeah, to answer your question, not over it. I remember where I was, and it changed the franchise in many ways. I mean, we're going to finals, man. This could have been our year, but, it happens. The shot, in my opinion, Kawhi's a legend, but I think it was a lucky shot. Went in, whatever. But yeah, see you, bros. You're the man.
Thank you so much. Both callers brought up the travel, and I can't support the travel. I just can't support it. It's something where if the Sixers would have done the same exact thing, all right. And to be honest with you, I don't want the ref blowing the whistle for a ticky-tack travel in Game 7. Put the game on the line. Personally, I don't want to see that happen. But it's nice, and it's not nice because it's an ugly moment for us fans, but to embrace our passion by hearing the stories of where you were. I think that's the cool side of this. You get to hear and see and feel the passion and how much we care by understanding the stories of this moment. Oh, I threw my hat against the wall. I was with my frat brothers. We ran out the house. I threw my hat. All of it. Me, dropped to my knees. I started crying, right? Just seeing the care level. Clearly, it's a very bad time. You'd rather compare that to an Eagles Super Bowl moment and seeing what that meant to a ton of people. But I still see the value in these moments as well. Just like Joel Embiid and just like Michael Jordan, feeling the pain, does that mean that makes them take the next step in their careers? Well, as fans, feeling the pain, it only makes a championship, whenever that comes next, that much sweeter. How about the Virginia team? Virginia, college hoops. They lose to UMBC in the first round of the tournament. They lost to a 16 seed the first time it ever happened. A 1 lose to the 16. What happens next year? They win the whole thing. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen specifically with the Sixers team. And, of course, COVID-19 comes to play. And I didn't think they were going to do that anyway. Definitely not. I would almost bet my mortgage on it. But I digress. We would date back to this. If Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons ever bring this city a championship, we would all date back to this. And it would almost be a laughing joke at that point. But that pain, it's what makes the winning that much sweeter.
Hey, bros. I just wanted to share my thoughts about the Kawhi shot a year ago and now. So a year ago, when I saw that ball hit the rim, I thought it was going overtime, but I saw it, it went straight up, hit the rim. You know the story, the narrative. And it just looked so odd, and when it went in, I was just kind of in the state of, straight up disbelief. I was upset, but I just didn't even show it. I was kind of just I was straight-faced, I want to say, for about an hour or two. It still doesn't even feel real a year later. And it felt like it wasn't bad enough waking up today, because literally I wake up, I go on my Instagram feed, and the first thing that comes up is Adam Schefter posting, 1 year ago today, Kawhi Leonard made the shot. I'm like, dude, shut up. That's not how I wanted to start my morning. And it really sucks, too. That was just salt in the wound, because I have one of my AP exams today, and, that on top of that was just awful for me. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Adam Schefter, huh? Just producing a low blow in the morning. See, when we see plays like Damian Lillard's big shot, and he had a couple big shots in some big moments, you love it. It's an awesome moment. It's great. You see the crowd reaction. It's funny how when it's the Sixers, it hits totally different, right? How about just the atmosphere, though? Now that we're in a time with no sports, when I was watching and rewatching these plays over again, the atmosphere. And I even went back to Game 4 and Game 3 and Game 5 and Game 2. And I went around and kind of skimmed through the extended highlights of the entire series just to get a feel for the whole thing. The atmosphere in both buildings, I miss it. Goosebumps, chills. We go from that to nothing right now. And now we're hearing that Adam Silver might not give an answer for another 2 to 4 weeks if the league's even going to resume. You just don't know. Crazy times. Crazy times.
Hey, Broads. It's Ray. Big fan of your show, and I just want to talk about the Kawhi shot. That shot, let me tell you, every time I see it on Instagram or Twitter, it hurts just as much as the moment it actually happened a year ago. It is just as painful, and it's just as obnoxious, and I can't stand seeing it. I really can't. I mean, who knows what could happen if that shot didn't go in, you know? But it really does hurt, and I just can't. It makes me really hold a grudge against the Raptors for sure. But, I mean, it was nice for, a couple months not really having to hear about it. And now on this day, on the anniversary, it's still just as painful.
And it's not going to go away. I think every single time it is May 12th, you will see that. On Twitter, on Instagram, whatever social media platform is next. TikTok. You might have people replicating that in their driveway with the voiceover of the broadcast. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. I'm not a TikTok guy. But May 12th, you will consistently see that clip roaming around and roaming around. What are you going to do? Be ready for it. Maybe one day you'll get to the point where it doesn't really hit you the same. It doesn't hit as hard. We're only 1 year late, right? So 1 year later, I can still see it being fresh, especially if you haven't seen it since. You haven't thought about it since those times. So it's, gives you the heebie-jeebies. It gives you the chills, possibly. I'm already at that point, though, which is weird. I didn't think I would be. I heard the call a million times today. All over the place. Nothing. Am I a psychopath? Some would say yes. Most would say yes. A lot of people would say yes. Some would say no, though. Are you one of them? I don't know. Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and I will see you next time.